Hey everyone, what's going on? Jeff here from Films at Home, and in today's 4K review, we're going to check out Moon from Sony Pictures in 4K, and we'll see how the video, the audio is, and whether this is worth an upgrade for your collection. Before we get started, if you're interested in physical media, 4K reviews, home theater, please subscribe to the channel, turn your notifications on, I'd really appreciate that, and let's get started now with this review. So Moon 4K, this has been out for a little while, but I had a specific request from a viewer, Don, who actually sponsored this video. He donated to the channel and said, could you please do a 4K review of Moon? It had actually been kind of hard for me to find it, and I found a copy on eBay. His donation helped me purchase the movie, and so here I have it and I'm ready to do the review. So huge shout out to Don for sponsoring this video and creating this content and making it possible for me to do this review. So quickly on the movie, Moon came out, I think it was back in 2009, and this was the 10th anniversary. And this movie was, kind of underrated. I don't think a lot of people saw it when it came out, but it's a really good, low budget, kind of independent sci-fi movie that then obviously got picked up by, Sony Pictures Classics, which is like their kind of indie arm of Sony Pictures, and it basically stars Sam Rockwell and not really anybody else other than Kevin Spacey as the voice of the robot, and it has very similar vibes to 2001: A Space Odyssey, but on a much smaller scale. And the movie was shot on 35mm, and this was restored in 4K with HDR10, no Dolby Vision, but it was restored by the director Duncan Jones, and so this is a new 4K scan from the 35mm negative. Now the picture quality on this is pretty good, but it is very grainy, and it should be. That's accurate and that's true to the picture, but the film was always really grainy, even though it was a 2K scan that I had previously seen on Blu-ray. And going up to 4K, the director he retained a lot of the grittiness. You can see that there wasn't really any noise reduction here. It is a fairly grainy, film-like image. And being such a dark movie, a lot of the scenes here are essentially, you're working with grays, blacks, and whites. The only really bit of, splash of color is the yellow sort of emojis that are on Gertie, the robot's screen. And other than that, you're dealing with a white interior and a gray and black exterior on the moon. So contrast is really important with this movie, and that's where I saw the biggest improvement. The detail is nice. Some of the shots are much more detailed, but I did notice that some didn't really appear to be that big an upgrade over the Blu-ray. So the 4K restoration, that's nice. It helps with grain structure. It's definitely a better image, but it's not a huge leap. The bigger leap here is with the HDR, because it's literally, this movie is all about contrast. You've got brightness and contrast, and that's what you have: whites, grays, and blacks. And the HDR makes it look a lot better and balances the blacks. The blacks are much deeper, the whites are much brighter, nice and bright whites, and all the grayscale in between white and black is well balanced, and the HDR really helps with that. I remember watching this on Blu-ray and having a hard time actually making out a few sequences, especially when they're outside driving some of the the moon rovers, the landers. You could get a little muddiness there, and it got hard to make out. The HDR contrast here really helped, and so I think that's where the biggest upgrade is visually. Other than that, it is pretty similar to the Blu-ray, so it's one of those cases where I'd say if you have the Blu-ray, you're fine, but as always, if you want the best picture quality, this 4K will do that for you. I'm just not sure it's worth a full $20 to upgrade. It is a minimal upgrade over the previous very good Blu-ray. Now on the audio, we do get a Dolby Atmos track, so that's an upgrade over Blu-ray as well. But this movie is very simplistic in terms of its audio. It is essentially Sam Rockwell and his character talking to himself or talking to a robot voiced by Kevin Spacey, which is creepy now in context. The way that robot, the way he handled that role, now knowing what we know about Kevin Spacey, is like a little unnerving. But that's pretty much all you get in the movie for sound. It's very dialogue driven. Now the Atmos track really shines the most in a few sequences outside when the moon equipment is really running and sort of like mining the moon. And there's a couple sequences where that, does engage the heights and you hear a little bit more. But for the most part, it's a pretty centralized audio track. So the Atmos doesn't add a whole lot, but it does make the score sound much better. And the score in this movie is incredible. It's one of my favorites. And, if you just enjoy sitting down and listening to a great musical score, this really adds a lot with Atmos. You get a much fuller experience with that score. It's one of the best ones. If you haven't seen this movie, I highly recommend it anyway, just from a movie quality standpoint. But it does, the audio really helps with the score, and that's really the biggest area. Dialogue's clear, but it was clear on the previous Blu-ray. The surround effects are basically in use about the same amount, and you just get a few moments of height and a bit of an improved score. So it's, again, hard to say if you want the best. Atmos is the best, but is it going to be worth a full $20 upgrade when you already have the Blu-ray? Hard to say there. Now, packaging wise here, I did manage to get a slip cover, which seems to be a little bit hard to find. I tracked one down on eBay. It is a little banged up, so that is what it is. But yeah, packaging wise, it's pretty simple. You just got your package here, and you've got a very, very simple 4K Blu-ray combo. Also comes with a digital code, which I've read does redeem in 4K and actually gives you a Dolby Vision 4K option, which is really curious why they didn't put that on the disc. But I think a lot of times, honestly, the Dolby Vision and the regular HDR10 presentations are essentially the same thing, and Dolby Vision, the more I look at it, becomes more and more of like a marketing term in some ways. So it's interesting you get that digitally. It could be just an upsell on the digital platform. But then on the 4K disc, you get an all-new retrospective with Duncan Jones. So he's the director. That's on the 4K disc. There are never-before-seen deleted scenes, some performance elements, and then a fan art poster gallery. So there's a little bit here, being the 10th anniversary, that gets added to the 4K for special features. So if you're a super fan of the movie, you will get some extra special features, and then you still get everything on the Blu-ray. Audio commentaries, Whistle, which was a short film by Duncan Jones, the making of, creating the visual effects, some Q&As, and a theatrical trailer. Those are available on the Blu-ray. So a little bit of an added bonus here, but no real special packaging, just a slipcover and a couple special features in the 4K disc, and that about does it for that. So overall, I've said this, but I think Moon, this is one of those movies where, okay, if you're a super fan of this movie, if you love this movie, then you should upgrade. You should spend the $20 and upgrade, because this is the best it's ever looked, the best it's ever sounded. There's some extra special features. It's the full package. It's the best home media release you can get right now. But if you're not a huge fan and you already have the Blu-ray, then I'd say, it's really hard to sell an upgrade here unless you can get it for around $10. That's kind of my sweet spot for upgrading anything. If you can find this for $10, sure, upgrade your Blu-ray. You can always sell the Blu-ray or trade it in somewhere. But everything I looked for on eBay had this listed about $20 to $25, and that seems to be where the price on this sits. So you're gonna have a hard time, unless you buy it used or find it somewhere, getting a good deal. Now, if you've never bought this movie, I would buy the 4K because it's the best presentation, and you're gonna probably spend $15 to $20 on the Blu-ray anyway. Spend the $20 or $25, get the 4K disc. You'll really be happy with the added contrast that the HDR gives you. It's gonna be a much better image. The film isn't as grainy in 4K as it is in Blu-ray, so if you didn't like that on the Blu-ray, it gets better with 4K with the added resolution, but it does still have that very 35mm filmic feel, so be noted there that that is what you'll see. You're gonna see grain. There's no way around it, and you shouldn't be disappointed by that. It's not the cleanest looking sci-fi image in the world, but there are a lot of standout sequences, and the movie itself is really excellent, and I highly recommend it. So there's your recommendations. If you don't have it, get the 4K. If you can get it for $10, upgrade from Blu-ray to 4K. And if you love the movie, I think this is a 4K you have to have and you have to add to your collection. So that's it for this review. I want to say thank you to Don again for sponsoring. He shouted me out on Instagram and said, hey, have you ever done Moon 4K? I said, I don't have it. He said, hey, you know what? If I sponsor the video, will you do it? 100%, of course, always. So yeah, if anybody else has something like that that they'd love to see, sometimes I can't buy every movie or I'd be out of my house. I sometimes miss releases. So if there's one you see that I haven't grabbed yet, always let me know. Please feel free to reach out, Instagram, YouTube, wherever you can, even through email. And I'm happy to take a look at what's available. But Moon is a cool one. I was happy to grab this on 4K. It kind of went under the radar when it came out. And I like the Sony Pictures 4K presentations. And this one's another really solid transfer by them. So I'm happy with the pickup. A thank you to Don for sponsoring. Now, if you want to check out other ways you can support my channel, there's links down in the description. I'll also leave a link to purchase Moon 4K from Amazon. That helps support my channel as well. And then make sure you're subscribed and follow me on social media, both Instagram and TikTok as well. That's a great way to get in touch. So with that being said, hopefully you'll be looking forward to more videos from me coming soon. I have a lot of good stuff in the works, so make sure you're staying tuned for all that. Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Stay safe and stay healthy out there, and I'll talk to you soon.